So what I'd like to talk a little bit about is the science of healing. And I work from evidence. I don't work from belief. And a lot of people say, I don't believe in that. And I just said, well, the evidence shows differently. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the science or the background behind when everybody says, oh, let's raise our frequency. It sounds to me a little woo-woo, but actually it's factual. It's what's so awesome about it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself right now. I spent 40 years as an international researcher and professor at various institutions all over the world. I spent 13 years in Germany. I spent 3 years at UCLA, 7 years at University of Washington, etc. You know, little institutes like that. And I knew how to profess very well. I taught a lot of students their basic physics, all the way from physics with no equations to advanced graduate physics. And when I came to Speaking Empire, I knew how to profess, but I had no idea how to sell, because selling and teaching are two different things. So what I learned from here was how to package myself in a way where I give them the sizzle, but not the steak. And I put my first event on 6 weeks after I did my power day and sold half the room. And I thought, wow, this stuff really works. So I decided to try it again, and I repeated it and earned even more the next time. So it works really well. So I have been in the cutting edge. I retired 4 years ago when I was 60, and I've been in the cutting edge of research. I brought forth a lot of new ideas, and you can see on the left side of the screen, that was my equipment, that was my world, like really physical. I had a laser, and the little doohickey at the bottom is a cell where I put things in, and I studied vibrations of matter. And so I really understand vibrations and energetics of matter and how waves interact with one another. And I'm also a prolific writer. Just sit me in front of a computer, I can write. So I've written 50 articles and book chapters that have been in libraries all over the world. I've spoken on stages all over the world on my research. And I've written 3 health books since I retired. And I decided to call my modality scientific healing because there's nothing like it. I devised an energetic stem cell therapy. I devised a method for cleaning up DNA and lengthening telomeres. Cleaning up DNA meaning reprogramming you to your best self. And I have created hundreds and hundreds of medical miracles. And in a moment, I'll tell you a little bit about one of them. But I was my first own miracle. I was my first client. Because 20 years ago, I was so sick, I only had 2 good hours a day. And my body was racked with pain from head to toe. My joints were swollen. My blood pressure was high. My cholesterol was high. And I had a tumor in my abdomen that was about that big. And 20 years later, all of that is gone. I am on no medication. I am in no pain. And I have the flexibility and abilities of a 20-year-old. So my big vision, because of all the miracles I have watched happen with working with hundreds of people, my big vision is to put the care back into healthcare and stop torturing people. Number three cause of death in the United States behind cancer and heart disease is medical malpractice. People are poisoned with chemicals all the time. Chemotherapy works 5% of the time. When I work with a cancer client, their tumors shrink most of the time. And there's a couple of reasons why they don't. So they call me the quack. So this is what I see when I look at things. I look at a beautiful crystal of olivine, which is also known as peridot. It's green. I wonder, how come it's green? What is it made of? How does it vibrate? That's how I look. That's the way I see the world. So I don't just look at something, I want to know exactly what's happening in it. So when I started doing healing, so I'm a many-generational psychic healer. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, me, my father, my brothers, my sister, my children, and my grandchildren all have skills. So fundamentals So what I do is I use the fundamentals of vibrational physics and apply it to healing. And what did it say here? And it's a matter of evidence, it's not a matter of belief. So I want to talk about your vibrational frequency. So I put this little meter on because a lot of people say, how do I know what my frequency is? So if you imagine a scale of 0 to 100, just like this speedometer here, and you just close your eyes and you relax into it, you can see the dial move, and it'll tell you your receptivity. Now, receptivity is really important. It's important for learning. It's important for receiving money. It's important for receiving good relationships. It's important for receiving good business. It's important for receiving health. So the higher your vibration, the greater your receptivity. So your receptivity, have you ever talked to somebody who is really mad and tried to reason with them? Not happening, right? Not happening. Person's really mad, and you can't get a word in edgewise. I learned the trick that when my ex-husband, the one I divorced, was mad at me, I'd just say what I wanted and leave the room so he couldn't yell. So anyway, so we're going to do this a little later. So I want to explain to you that your energy systems in your body are actually related to your physical structure. Everywhere you've got nerve endings coming forward, and there's a bunch of receptors there, like nerve endings, endorphin receptors, glucagon receptors, insulin receptors. They're centered in various places on your body, and you can see, if you understand the chakra system, along the medial line of the body, there's 7 major ones, that the nerve endings all match there. You know, it's really a physical structure. And not only that, but there's been research 20, 25 years ago that lined up all of the receptors. And the main function is to receive and sometimes send energy. And when they close down, just like the iris of the eye, when there's too much light coming in, too much disharmony coming in, they close down. That's when you lose reception. That's when your energy field shrinks in. And this has been researched for the last 100 years, even by medical doctors, but they ignore it. I don't know why. So what happens when I already discussed this, it crashes your relationships, you get brain fog, you can't think straight, your income dries up, you get depressed, you don't know what to do, you start overeating, you get fat, you don't like yourself anymore, you give up all your power to everybody else because you're just too damn tired to do anything. And your body runs down and you get sick. So this is how we receive information. Now the really exciting part is the one furthest to the right. So you already know that light waves come into your eyeball and you can interpret what's around us. You already know that sound waves come into your ear and you can understand what I'm saying. But what you didn't know, that your heart radiates out 20, 30 feet. And it projects out everything you're thinking or feeling. And if you're happy, you have a nice, high, smooth frequency. That's the top figure. And when you're angry and upset, you have a jagged waveform with a very low frequency. So that means when you're happy, you're at a high frequency. And when you're upset, you're radiating out the low frequency. And if you hear Laurel talk a little bit about mirror neurons, we all have mirror neurons. So if somebody is really happy and sending out good energy, then everybody feels really good. But if somebody comes in and they're like steaming, everybody can feel it, and you can feel the room energy drop really quick, which is why I'm really happy that Dave and Dustin don't let those people in the room. So, see if I can get it to show the one picture I want to show. It's not doing it. Okay, so what I'm illustrating here, this is a scale from 0 to 80 megahertz. And when you measure the bioelectric field on the body, so you could take there's devices that will do this on the body. When a person is healthy and smart and brain active, you're at 80 megahertz. That's what's showing at the top. And when you are getting sick, you're down at about 60 megahertz. When you're in the range of cancer, you're at 40 megahertz. And when you're in the process of dying, you're at 20 megahertz. So you can see that the difference between being healthy and being unhealthy is about 40 megahertz, right? So, but your negative thoughts will lower you by 12, and your positive thoughts will raise you by 10. And meditation or getting into a good state, which we're going to do in just a minute. The difference between your negative thoughts and your positive thoughts and your happy thoughts, is it really the difference? It's that bar on there between a healthy body and cancer. So let me tell you about Pat. She is a 67-year-old client who came to me when she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and 4 months to live last August. And she called me up and I said, so do you want to live? She goes, yes. And I said, so what are you doing to help? And she told me she's meditating, she's doing diet, it's not helping, she's become a vegan, she juices and all of that. And I said, oh, so that person really wants to live. And she says, yeah, the doctors say there's no hope. And I said, okay, let's prove them all wrong. So I started working with her. She's this awesome woman. She's a matriarch of a big family, and she loves her children and her grandchildren, and she really wants to be here. So I said, okay. And we worked together. Her tumors have shrunk. Her tumor markers have gone down. She is feeling more energetic and hopeful. And this is now 7 months later, and instead of getting worse, she's getting better. So that's the difference between that. And I'm going to skip this. What we're going to do is we're going to raise your frequency right now. Yay! So everybody stand up. And we're going to straighten up our spine and smile. And I'm going to do another exercise in a minute. So learning a way to get more receptive. First of all, you can get up every morning and say, I'm totally receptive. And what happens is your field expands, and it helps bring in more money. Like my low income months are 4 times higher than they used to be, just by doing this every day. And getting up into a power stance, which is a superhero stance, there's been a lot of research that shows that when you have a straight spine and your shoulders back, you're in your power stance, your cortisol levels go down, that's your stress, and your testosterone levels go up, that's your oomph. It cleans up your solar plexus where you carry all the stress and makes you feel better. But another way to do this, of course, is to start letting energy run up and down your meridians. So you can do this 10 times, but I'm just going to do it twice. Nod your head up and down. Wag your head back and forth slowly. Now rotate your shoulders forward 2 times, back 2 times. Rotate at the hip. And this is the really important one. This is where you're going to loosen up your money space. Let's roll hips. Yay! And now the other way. And that's our root. This is our survival, right? And then the last thing is to exercise the legs. So we just dip and go, ah, yes, more coming in. I'm totally receptive. And then the last thing, I do this every morning. One of my shaman, like really spiritual friends told me when I told her this exercise, she says, I leave a lot of spiritual fertilizer on the ground. So when somebody is thinking of us and they don't like us or they're upset, then you get this like feeling that they're pulling on you. You can cut the cord. So you just go, cut the cord. And you can pull all of those in the back too, because a lot of them are backstabbers, right? Cut the cord. And we just throw them down a 50-foot hole and get rid of them, right? So does everybody feel their energy moving a little better? Yeah, and we want that money coming in. Yay! And we want to attract those great people. And I do this every morning. And I also do some of these every morning. And everybody has a routine. Some people meditate. You're not going to get me to sit in a corner and meditate 2 hours. No, thank you. I do breaths. So you just imagine yourself filling up from the bottom up. Hold it for a few seconds and release. Do that 2 or 3 times, mini meditation. So now you can imagine yourself with this dial and how your receptivity has changed. And I can actually feel the energy of the room has changed. You may all be seated. So for those of you that would love to connect with me, I have a little gift for everybody. If you go onto scientifichealer.com/SpeakingEmpire, you may download a copy. Are you getting this? Of my book, The Diamond Healing Method. Get healthy no matter what your doctor says. I also have a Wake Up Your Brain healing audio. It's 11 minutes. And I don't like anything that takes 2 hours because I get really antsy. And then the last is, if you would like an appointment with me, I will do an energy assessment session and do a little clearing if you want. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Anastasia Chopoulos, and I'm the Scientific Healer. Thank you for listening.